HVAC business insurance, what coverages are needed for your business, how much does it cost, and how can you get the best quote possible? My name is Nate Jones. I'm the owner and CEO of Wexford Insurance, and we also have a DBA called HVAC Insurance Guard, and we insure over 100 HVAC companies across the nation in 48 states minus Alaska and Hawaii. So we know from insuring so many of you guys where the cost is going to come in at and what coverages you need. So let me jump into this right now. I'll tell you each coverage and the anticipated cost from a new company all the way to when you have employees, okay? So the first coverage that you need no matter what, and before I go through these, again, there's a link on the first comment. It's a pinned comment. If you want a quote, follow the link. If you want a quote and you don't want to follow the link, call us. There's a phone number there as well. Okay, so here we go. General liability is the first coverage that you need if you're a startup and you're just maybe starting on the side. General liability is property damage liability and bodily injury. So what does that mean? That's mainly what it covers. If you cause property damage to someone's house, let's say you install an HVAC unit and for some reason there's a leak and water goes flying all over the floor and you destroy this lady's perfectly wood floor and it's your fault because you forgot to turn off the water or something like that. We've seen claims like that before. That's that's for accidents, property damage. You're replacing that floor. There's also coverage for bodily injury. Let's say that there's a leak and she slips on the floor and it's your fault and she hurts her back. So property damage and bodily injury that you cause during your operations running your business. There's some other coverage in there as well, but those are the two main coverages that you should be concerned about. So for a new venture doing under $100,000 a year, we could usually get policies under $1,000 for the year. So usually it's like $400, $500, $600, $700 for the year. You can pay that monthly for a new venture one-man startup. As you continue to scale and get more employees, your policy will be based on payroll. So why is that? Is because the more payroll you have, the more HVAC units you're working on, and what that means is there's more risk involved with you potentially causing a claim. So from all the way up to it kind of just slowly goes up. As you get bigger, there is more discounts. So I would say a company with 2 or 3 employees probably still going to pay less than $3,000, $2,000 for the year. General liability for HVAC is still considered somewhat low risk. So depending on what you're doing, if you're doing commercial, industrial, that's a different situation. But if you're doing residential, normal HVAC work, insurance isn't too complicated. Now, if you get into the crazy stuff on the industrial side, then we got to find some other markets for that. But again, we have over 25 insurance companies that love HVAC contractors. So what we do is we make sure that we find you the best possible price. You don't pay us anything. The insurance companies pay us a commission, so it doesn't cost you anything. And we work with insurance companies that will not work with you directly. They only sell through independent agencies like us. We have a team of 7 agents that are happy to help. The next coverage that you will need is workers' compensation. This covers you as the owner, if you're included. Most of the time you're excluded. Most owners don't want to be included in the work comp. And your employees for workplace-related injuries and loss of wages. So what happens is if an employee is installing an HVAC and they fall and they hurt their back, they're on the job, they're an employee, even if you 1099 somebody, you likely still need a work comp unless they're truly a subcontractor. A 1099 is no magic contract. It's nothing. 1099 is just you saying I'm not withholding your taxes. Most states determine an employee based on how you treat them, not how you pay them. So if you treat them as an employee, you need to show up, you need to work from 8 to 5, here's tools to do your job, here's a vehicle to do your job. The state will usually determine them as an employee, and you will likely be responsible for workers' compensation benefits even if you don't have a policy. So that means they can have a judgment against you because you as an employer didn't have a work comp policy. So we suggest that any time that, unless you are 100% sub, you're subbing people out, that's different, but you'd have to look at the contract. You have to make sure they're 100% sub. You need to have a workers' compensation policy to cover your employees. So for one employee, depending on the state, it can be as low as $300 to $400 for the year, $500 for the year, all the way up to $1,000, $1,500 for the year, depending on the state. Every state has different rates because they have caps on injuries. So if I lose a pinky, and let's just make up some numbers here. If I lose a pinky in Indiana, the most somebody can recover is like $30,000 because they have caps on injuries in Indiana. In Illinois, it's 3 times. It's like $90,000, I believe. I'm just kind of throwing out numbers here. On some states, like California, there is no cap. So that means that if you can justify that there's a pinky that's worth more than $1 million, you could potentially get that. So now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not anything like that, but that's why the workers' compensation pricing is different by each state. Okay, so the workers' comp is a little bit harder to price on a video like this. But again, you can always reach out to us. The first pinned comment, follow the link, or give us a call. The next coverage is commercial auto for those vans that you have tools in. So commercial auto coverage covers you if you accidentally hit somebody else. You have auto liability, and it also covers your vehicle subject to a deductible. And we can add uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage as well for those people who hit and run or don't have enough insurance to cover your van. Okay, very easy. Usually in the conservative states, we're at like under 800 a vehicle, and down into Florida, Texas, you're getting into like 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 a vehicle. Okay, again, we usually can package all these policies under one insurance company for you. The next coverage is tools coverage. So since you have a lot of hand tools and you have HVAC units that are likely riding in your van, we'll want to put an installation floater there that covers that HVAC unit in case you get a T-boned or someone steals it out of the back of your vehicle. So that's covering that while it's en route to be installed. That's why it's called an installation floater. We also have small tools coverage, large tools. If you have anything that's valued over, $4 or $5 grand, we'd want to schedule that. But under that, we could just do a bunch of small tools coverage. Okay, usually that's anywhere from, a small tools add-on could be $300-$400 onto the general liability, all the way up to higher if you have more highly valued items. Okay, so again, general liability, workers' compensation, business auto, commercial auto coverage for HVAC HVAC companies, and tools, and then you may need an umbrella if you start getting into commercial HVAC or you work for a large company that's sending you out to their properties. Say it's a large property management company and they want you to service their properties. Maybe you're doing commercial service for commercial buildings. They're going to want you to have an umbrella. What's an umbrella? Umbrella usually sits over the general liability and provides extra liability coverage. So general liability is usually a standard 1 million occurrence, 2 million aggregate. So the aggregate is reduced for every occurrence you have. It's a bucket of limits. So 1 million occurrence, and if you have a $2 million claim, well, you only have 1 million occurrence. The umbrella sits on top of that. So usually they'll require 2 million, 3 million, $5 million umbrella. So if you have the 1 million general liability and then the 5 million umbrella, you're looking at about 6 million in limits. We can put the umbrella over the commercial auto and the workers' compensation as well. So that umbrella will sit over 3 different policies, depending on the contract and depending on what you want to do as the business owner. Okay, so general liability, commercial auto, workers' compensation, umbrella coverage. Outside of that, usually we can add professional liability sometimes to the general liability. That means if you're providing any sort of consulting or build out of someone's HVAC construction project or consulting to a general or a prime, how it should be created or anything like that, we can add professional liability. But for a standard HVAC company, those are the coverages you need. So how could you get a quote? Well, if you follow the link in the first pinned comment or the phone number, give us a call. We can provide quotes usually same day, and we're not going to call you like crazy. We're going to call you, we're going to text you, email you, and we're going to call you. And if you don't pick up, we may text your email one more time, and that's usually what we do. Okay, so and if you like this type of content, like and subscribe. Reach out to us today for an insurance quote. Thanks.